Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Riverfront. This is episode number 503 of the world's most dangerous podcast, where we discuss the Cincinnati Reds and occasionally Ron Vallone. I'm your host, Chad Dotson. With me again this week, your friend and mine, the GOAT of the Riverfront, Nate Dotson. How are you, Nate?
I'm fantastic. I'm glad that the listeners and viewers got a chance to see behind the curtains a little bit and see what happens when we don't update the random player of the week in the show notes. Ron Vallone getting shouted out twice in a row. That's on me. I did not.
I didn't remember it. Was it Ron Vallone last week? See, I didn't remember that.
There was some reason for it. I think because he was the last person before Hunter to have 14 strikeouts in a game, which was not a fun fact that I would have known unless somebody on Twitter had told me. Chad, I'm great. It is fall has officially set in, and you know what happens when the fall season comes? Most people think football, but we're Bengals fans, so we don't think football either, or playoffs. We think pumpkins. That's all we got. Spooky season.
There you go.
This one's a little bit different. So, how are you feeling as playoff baseball approaches?
It's wild, Nate. First of all, I've never been a big fan of fall, but for some reason, I think maybe because of the muggy, humid summer we had, fall has kind of hit right this year, and I'm enjoying it. Mm-hmm. And I don't care about the pumpkin nonsense, despite what my wife has all over our porch. Whatever. But look, okay, I'm just going to say this at the top: the Reds are not going to make the playoffs. I mean, they could. They still literally could.
It's not impossible.
It's not impossible, but here's, I can't believe we're even saying this. And we've had some version of this comment near the beginning of the podcast, like for the last 3 months. We are literally about to begin the final series of the season. And the Reds have not been eliminated yet. Now, look, there have been some problems here in the second half. There's some things that we can rant and rave about, but again, you and I have done this many times. We have to focus this around the fact that we are Reds fans. We don't get this very often. We need to enjoy the fact that this is actually, it has happened. And listen, this week, this two-game Guardian series, we're hanging on every pitch. We are watching the scoreboard to see the Cubs melting down and what's going on with the Marlins of all teams. I don't know. I've missed it. And it's going to end in disappointment, but a different kind of disappointment than we're used to in Cincinnati. And so I'm actually genuinely happy about this team at the end of a season for the first time in a long, long time. And I just got to remind myself not to forget that.
Unfortunately, based on the quality of play of late, you have to remind yourself a lot because the product has not been super pretty. But I'm holding on to my inner, our MVP of the Slack channel of late has been Rex Scott, the resident family optimist. And he has been injecting some much needed life into, some of the less rosy outlooks that we are prone to for good reason. Of course we are. But as of recording this, the Reds are, what's our record here? 81-78. So not going to have a losing season. Let's go.
Bring it on.
This is a shockingly rare occasion in my lifetime. But they're a game and a half back of the final wild card spot. Now, again, as of recording, the Braves are taking care of the Cubs, and the Marlins are tied with the Mets. So they could end the day one game back from the final playoff spot. And there's not a person alive that would not have taken that at the beginning of the season. So you're right. We look back at this fun team that we've had gotten so much joy out of watching all season long, and they're in it, they're fighting. I don't want it to end.
No, me either. And that's something that's rare at this time of the year.
Yeah.
It's been a weird second half, or really not even second half, but the last 6 weeks, 7 weeks, because they've not played well at all, and it's been frustrating in that sense. They were in first place at the trade deadline, and things are rosy, and they've really just limped to the finish line in a lot of ways. And you want to get frustrated about that. You want to get not upset really, because it's baseball. Don't get upset over baseball, but you want to be frustrated with it. And we have been frustrated with it. But still, they have a chance to make the playoffs. And I will take that, given what we've seen over the last 30 years. If you tell me the Reds are going to have a chance to make the playoffs, I'll take it every year. I don't care if it's this type of a season where it's an 81 win season. And by the way, 81 wins, the Reds are not going to have a losing record. I did not think, and you can go back into the archives and see, I didn't think the Reds were going to lose 100 games again this year, but they did lose 100 last year. And the reason why I didn't think they would lose 100, a lot of reasons, but number one, everything went wrong last year. And yes, I know this year's team was they really screwed around and didn't go get any pitchers, et cetera, et cetera. But to go from 100 losses to, at the worst, a 500 team, at the very worst. And if they win one of these final three against St. Louis, and of course they're going to win all three because I want to speak that into existence.
Let's go.
They could have a winning record. And to go from 100 losses to a winning record is just, it defies description. And so many things went right. The things we expected to go wrong did go wrong, but a lot of things went right that no one expected to go right. And so it's fun. And so ultimately what I'm getting at is, yes, be frustrated by the fact that they were in first place at the trade deadline and they limped to the finish and they really looked kind of bad at times in the second half. But also do not forget to stop and smell the roses, as they say, because this is not common in Cincinnati. And yes, it's, the soft bigotry of low expectations, as they say. But I don't care. I'm happy to still be in the mix. And this is me, again, continually trying to talk myself into being happy about something that really we should be happy about.
Yeah. A quick word of advice to anybody listening here. Don't stop and smell the peat roses. It's frowned upon.
Hey.
Frowned upon.
Ooh.
We've talked about this limp to the finish quite a bit. And the fact of the matter is, even if this team does squeak into the playoffs, I'm not going to suddenly think that they have a chance to make a deep run, a la the Phillies last year. Of course, anything could happen. But man, these young guys that came out of no hands, knocked our socks off, they are all on fumes. Andrew Abbott is struggling out there. Velocity's down. The hitters are in slumps. It has been less than inspiring. So it's not like we're one game away from missing out on our chance at a World Series run, which nothing's impossible. But if I was a betting man, so enjoy what we've got. Enjoy the way this team plays. Even when they're not playing well, they're playing hard. And it's coming to the end of it. And like you said, this is not something I get to say very often. I get to feel very often, but I don't want this season to end. I want to keep watching Reds baseball, talking about it with you and the gang. But unfortunately, this might be the end of it because I'm retiring. Nope, sorry, never mind. April Fool's.
It could be the end. But again, I've said this many times over the years, and I'm going to say it again, though. All you have to do is sneak into the playoffs. Every team that gets in has a chance. As we've seen, the wild card teams have won. Teams advance far beyond what they should have all the time. Now, if the Reds were to go to the World Series, it would probably be it could happen. It would be a surprise. You talk about running on fumes. This team is just dragging right now, and they've gotten every ounce of good vibes out of this team. So 3 more games. The Reds are still in the mix. And again, given what we've seen in years past, I'll take it. All right. So before we go further, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, smash the subscribe button. You have consent. If you're listening to the audio version, why not subscribe? You get to hear us every single week on your phone or wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever. We're there. So Nate, 81-78 right now. Reds in a playoff race. Couple things that I want to highlight this week before we get into the news. I don't necessarily want to talk about. I guess we can talk about. I don't really necessarily want to talk about the results.
Other than to say there were a couple just disastrous ones. Some really, really deflating losses in there.
Well, yeah, let's start there. Okay, so the Reds are. Oh boy, I don't even really.
Do we have to? Do we have to?
This game was as disheartening as anything we've seen in recent years. So Friday, the Reds lost 7-5 to the Pirates, thanks to mostly uneven defense and some pretty shoddy bullpen work. And that was the game that officially eliminated the team from the National League Central division title race. Congratulations to the Milwaukee Brewers. So that leaves only the wild card. Reds were a game and a half behind the Cubs at that time, and a half game behind the Marlins for that final playoff spot. So, but on Saturday, tell me if you were like me, Nate. The Reds take a 9-0 lead after 3 innings on Saturday. And it's not often that we get to be optimistic. But at that moment, I thought, you know what? We're going to see the Reds of June for this last week and a half, and they're going to do this thing. They're going to go get it. And you should never think that as a Reds fan. But did you have that thought that, oh my, here we go. This is it. We're back.
They haven't had many offensive outbursts like that have become the norm during the streak, right? We were so used to that for about a 2-month stretch there. And yeah, you couldn't help but feel like, oh my gosh, they found it. They've got that spark back. But then,
yeah, they lose 13-12. Just a complete meltdown. And you could see it coming. It was like a slow motion train wreck. You just saw it coming, and it's not so well. It is that you blow a 9-0 lead. That's bad enough. You lose 2 out of 3 to the worst team in the league. Basically, I mean, this is a team that's fighting for the playoffs that loses the first 2 in that series against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Tim Daniels, host of Late Night Reds, he confessed to me, by the way, this week that he's actually secretly a Pittsburgh Pirates fan. Did you know this?
It's big news.
Yeah, it is big news.
I'm glad we can break that.
Give Tim a hard time. He confessed that he's it's strange. He's a Pirates and Penguins fan, but doesn't like the Steelers. I don't know what's going on over there. No, they blew it 13-12, and I was just like, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?" It's like it's a little bit of that's not really a microcosm, I guess, of the season, but sort of in that, at the game starts, the Reds had lost game 1, and so it's a low, and then all of a sudden it's a high, and now we're back to a low again. This team just jerks you around up and down with your emotions. So the final game, though, of that series, unless you have something else to talk about that stupid 13-12 loss, Nate, I want to move on to the final game.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, let's do it.
I've banished those other 2 from my memories.
So the final game of the series is the Reds' final home game of the season. And it was Joey Votto's final home game of the season. That's what I'm going to say for now. And we don't know. Obviously, Joey Votto has a team option on his contract for next year. And we don't know if Joey Votto is going to be back. And frankly, he doesn't know if he's going to be back yet, according to what he said. And Nick Krall came out today and said, we're going to talk to him. We don't know. We got a decision to make. That's Reds general manager Nick Krall. So Votto's first at bat, he gets a standing ovation. And I don't know that I've ever seen a player almost cry on the field. I think the last time I saw a player cry on the field was when I got put into pitch against the Little League Indians. And I hit the first batter, and then I walked the second batter and hit the third batter. That was my only career pitching appearance. And I felt like I was about to cry. Poor 11-year-old Chad. Votto looked emotional. And he's talked at length about, what it meant to him. And then, of course, later he gets a hit in his final at bat, gets removed for a pinch runner, gets another ovation, got a curtain call. And then after the game, a great interview with Jim Day. I don't know if it's his final game, but man, that was a punch in the gut, Nate. What were your thoughts?
I have been in denial about the future of Joey Votto in this franchise all season long, maybe for the last couple seasons, knowing this day was coming. My first feeling was sadness that it may actually be that he's going to go out on a team that fought till the end, but ultimately fell short again because there wasn't the talent put around him. to support not just his this season. It's usually only been his prodigious talent, but his and others. But I got rid of that pretty quickly when I saw that emotion on his face. It seemed obvious to me that Joey did not expect this ovation, that it came completely as a surprise to him. And that's why he was so overcome. And then in true Joey fashion, he's like, God, I got to go hit.
I loved it.
For a player that has spent his entire career in a city that has rarely, if ever, shown him the appreciation that a future Hall of Famer in a baseball town would be expected to receive. Never at any point in his career has Joey gotten that love that he deserves until that moment. I wish there had been another 20,000 fans there. That would be my only sort of negative to throw into this conversation, but it was a special moment. I think a lot of people teared up a little bit, justifiably so. And I just pray to the baseball gods that that's not the last time we see Joey Votto in a white Cincinnati Reds uniform.
Yeah, you made the point that I was going to make, which is that the Reds fans have not always shown Joey the love, and certainly not the love that I feel like he deserves as one of the all-time greats of this organization. And I'm proud to say that here at the Riverfront and its predecessor, Red Leg Nation Radio, go back in the archives. You'll see we've been Joey Votto boosters the entire way. But it was good. It was good to see that happen. And is he coming back? I don't know. I expect that's going to be a big topic of conversation right here on the Riverfront.
Ooh, you don't say.
Going forward. I was interested to see, I've written, I think probably 3 weeks ago, I wrote a piece at the magazine about why the Reds need to bring back Joey Votto. And I don't know what's going to happen. Some people say money's will be too expensive. Get out of here with that nonsense. Okay. The Reds have one player under contract for next year. They have the money if they want to spend the money for Joey Votto. But I was interested to see Mark Sheldon, the beat writer for MLB.com. So the in-house beat writer, essentially. He wrote a piece this week saying, here are the reasons why the Reds should re-sign Joey Votto. So I was interested to see that. I hope that it is something that starts to coalesce around the commentary here rather than just, the blogs and then my dumb nonsense at the magazine. Because Joey I get the sense that Joey doesn't think he's finished. And if Joey's not finished, he needs to finish here. He needs to finish in Cincinnati. It's like, I don't want to see Joe Montana in a Chiefs jersey. I don't want to see, I don't see Joey Votto wearing I don't know. I can't even a Blue Jays jersey, I guess. I don't know. Bring him back. That's all I have to say on that. We'll talk more about that.
We'll have a lot more to say later. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was that
Nate.
Truly a special moment.
Yeah, no question. No question at all.
Yeah.
Speaking of,
there was one other special moment.
There was, and I paused there for a moment because I'm trying to think how to frame this, because there has been an interesting. I've been away from Twitter for most of the last 2 months, and it's been great. I dip back in occasionally, but not often. But there's been kind of an interesting storyline. Is that the right word? That's a narrative, I guess, is the right word, amongst a certain subset of Reds fans about Elly De La Cruz. And it's the extremes of, you see the extremes of he's a bust, which is ludicrous, to send him back down to AAA, which I think is ridiculous. But, I can see why you would argue that. Maybe. It's silly in my mind, but that's not as bad as he's a bust already. But anyway, Elly, he's been struggling. Let's not. I mean, we're not going to sugarcoat it, right? He's been struggling, but he's a 14-year-old playing in the big leagues against the grown men, and that's going to happen. But boy, he had an Elly moment. We've not seen those in a while, but he showed us again why he's Ellie De La Cruz and why he's the most exciting prospect that I've ever seen in a Reds uniform. Nate, what do you think about Ellie? Hardest hit ball in Reds history. I mean, 2 home run game. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It felt like June again.
It was a giant FU to everybody that has been talking smack on Twitter. It was one of the most impressive balls I've ever seen. I mean, the eye test doesn't tell you where a hard hit ball is going to rank. But man, if you'd asked me as soon as I watched that, where this ball ranks in the Reds history, I would have said, "God, it's got to be up there." Turns out, hardest hit ball in the history of the Reds franchise. That's a long
caveat. They've only been measuring that for a few years, but still, since they've been measuring,
I feel pretty confident
right.
with the advances in modern science and exercise and fitness. I was almost even more impressed by his other home run, where he very much like sat back and waited on an off-speed pitch that he has swung and missed at. It seems like every single time for the last 2.5 months. But I loved it. It was just a reminder to everybody, like, this guy's special. He's different. You hear people say all the time, he's built different. No, he's literally built different. He's giant, he's the fastest, and he throws the hardest, and he hits the hardest. Like, when you could do that, be patient with the guy. Give him a little runway. He can do things that literally no other human being on planet Earth can do.
Yeah,
so just
give him a little runway.
Your tits.
I love the way you put that. Give him a little runway. If you could measure my excitement over Ellie De La Cruz's future right now versus, or measure my excitement even before that home run and my excitement back when he stole second, third, and home in 2 pitches earlier this season, they're exactly the same. Yes, he struggled some. That's what happens with kids. He struggled some. I am so in on Ellie De La Cruz. I am buying all the Ellie stock I can get. And it's been amusing to me. You know, on Twitter, I try not to engage in too much of the nonsense. I try to just stay away from it because whatever. But it's been kind of fun to watch our buddy Carlos Guevara. Do you know Carlos Guevara, Nate?
I'm his biggest fan.
This guy here, Carlos, if you're watching on YouTube, it's a Carlos Guevara card, Billings Mustangs. He just loves, he's the troll of the century. He is absolutely the troll of the century, and he'll say things just to reel people in. And so he had some fun with some Ellie slander this week. And I don't know. I encourage you. I don't encourage you to follow Carlos because he's too much of a troll. Some of you can't handle the levels of trollness coming from Carlos, but I was amused. Let me just say that.
Yeah, I don't encourage you to get on Twitter at all. But if you're going to be on Twitter, if you've already made that choice, follow Carlos because it's entertaining if you take it for what it is.
Absolutely. Nate, what do you know about SeatGeek? Do you know anything about SeatGeek?
I know that they are responsible for bringing this episode to the listeners. And I do know that if you have yet to place an order via SeatGeek, that would be a ticket purchase for any event of your choice. If you haven't done it yet, you should use the code Riverfront, one word, and get $20 off your first SeatGeek order. Shouts to the gang.
Code Riverfront. Use it. I used it for an American intercollegiate football game.
Ooh.
Got tickets for that. Got $20 off, and then somebody came back and offered me free tickets later, which I can't blame SeatGeek for that. But use the code Riverfront, and I know a bunch of you have been using that.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And I'm thinking about getting a couple new email addresses, maybe a couple new home addresses. So
Why not?
Flip it on them. They'll never know. They don't watch this.
All right. Quickly, let's go with the news of the week because there's not a lot and none of it is good. Well, actually, a little bit of it might be a little bit good, but Matt McClain is out for the year, Nate. We're not going to see Matt McClain anymore. This is not good, but I don't know what to say. Again, all these kids are limping across the finish line. I just want Matt McClain to get that oblique healed up and ready for spring training at this point.
Yeah, that's it. If the Reds don't make the playoffs, then he shouldn't come near a batter's box for some time. Rest it up. Let that thing heal 100%. Come back, be ready next year. It was a shame though.
Out for the. Go ahead.
We've seen a whole lot of this recurring injury. Guys that are almost ready to come off the IL, and then suddenly, nope, they're hurt again. Just, I'm not saying like maybe it's just because we are a fan of this franchise and we follow the day to day. Maybe every franchise has these opinions, but I'm getting a little tired of it.
Yeah. There's been a rash of them, and you wonder if they rushed McClain a little bit because they needed him so badly. He's had such an incredible season. You wonder, but we've seen some of that. India, Votto, even. I mean,
Lodolo,
Nick Lodolo. Yeah. I don't know. What about
get it together,
TJ?
boys? Get it together.
Get it together. TJ Antone out for the year. That's sad. It makes me sad, genuinely sad, because TJ Antone seems like a good guy.
Yeah.
And he's just, I don't think it's ever going to happen for him.
We'll be happy when it does, but we'll wait with bated breath. I don't even know
Harrison Bader. Harrison Bader. The Harrison Bader era in Cincinnati is over. Nate, my question here is: did you realize there was a guy named Harrison Bader that played for the Cincinnati Reds?
His punchable face has left an indelible impression in my mind that I will never forget. But he'll always be wearing a Cardinals jersey for me. So long, Harrison. Don't come back.
I'm telling you.
Or do
the Harrison Bader era. Yeah. Harrison Bader is a guy that, 10 years from now, we're going to be saying on the podcast, we're going to begin it with, hey, welcome to the Riverfront. This is episode number 1,742 of the world's most dangerous podcast, where we discuss the Cincinnati Reds and occasionally Harrison Bader. And nobody's going to remember that this is a guy that played for the Reds.
I look forward to that time.
No, I'm not gonna talk about the fact that everyone praised Nick Krall for going and getting guys off waivers, which it was a good move at the time, given all the nonsense before. But I don't want to go there right now. The Reds released a player this week, Nate.
This is maybe the biggest news.
The headline was Kevin Newman released David Bell hardest hit. You got to feel bad for David Bell right now. His guy Kevin Newman has been released.
He lost his oldest child. It's a tough time for David. I'll be honest with you. I thought they cut him a long time ago. They put him on some extended IL stint, and I was like, all right, we're done. That's it. He's gone. No, he was still around. Not anymore, though. I don't know. At this point, I would say just keep him. Like, he's been there the whole season. Like, he's been a part of this run. And when I think about this run, when I think about this season, he'll pop up. He won't be my first or ninth choices, but Kevin Newman was a part of this. I've enjoyed the debate about whether or not he deserved a roster spot. Definitely whether he deserved to bat where he did in lineups. But, I root for that guy. Hope Kevin Newman finds all the success in the world and is super happy in a city that is not Cincinnati.
Thank you for that, because I'm making jokes about Kevin Newman being released, and I try hard here on the show, and I sort of slipped here in this moment. I don't really genuinely enjoy somebody losing their job. Kevin Newman's worked his tail off to be a big league baseball player, and he was not good for the Reds this year. He was put in positions that he shouldn't have been by the manager, I think, but that's not his fault. That dude's trying to make a living. That dude's trying to be as good as he can be. And so I do wish him the best of luck, because every time he was on the field, he gave 100% for the Cincinnati Reds. And so I feel bad about laughing about the fact that David Bell thought so highly of him. But the fact of the matter is, the Reds released him, and he still was hitting third for the Reds the next night. I don't understand why David Bell did that. I don't get it.
The Reds started the first inning with one out because David Bell
right
out the lineup card with Kevin Newman in it. I love it.
But
so long, Kevin Newman. It was fun while it lasted.
No Godspeed, and he was a poor man's Kyle Farmer, but appreciate everything you did. How about a poor man's Kyle Farmer?
Gross.
Yeesh.
I'm not sure who that's more offensive to.
All right, Nate, how about the topic of the week here?
Let's do it.
Some superlatives.
Like it's that time of the year where we have to give out some awards. Next week, we should go back and look at what our preseason predictions were. neither of us had time to go back and do that kind of research for today's episode. But next week, I'm going to come back with the receipts. And I can tell you right now, without even looking at them, they're not good.
Oh, my. Nate, that's a great call. We probably should have done that, but we didn't. Because we're telling you that we're lame. But that's a good idea. I actually, I don't know that I want to see what my predictions were before the season because I didn't see this coming in any way. So, so we'll do that. But right now, we're going to give out some superlatives. The 2023 Cincinnati Reds Team Awards. Going to hand out some trophies here, Nate. So the first trophy we're going to give here is going to be the Comeback Player of the Year award. We're going to start there. The Comeback Player of the Year. Now, I try to think historically, who would be who's someone in Reds history that was a big comeback player? And I couldn't really come up with anyone except for Jose Rijo. You remember Jose Rijo?
Oh,
you ever heard of that guy?
Once or twice.
Oh, yeah, Jose Rijo. First of all, he was a pitcher for the Cincinnati Reds, and he was the most valuable player actually in the World Series. Well, when was the last time the Reds won the World Series?
I was this
1990.
I was this many years.
That many, yes. Jose Rijo, as a 30-year-old in 1995, injured and he was gone. 5 seasons he didn't play. And then in 2001, as a 36-year-old, he comes back. 13 appearances, 2.12 ERA. So this is the Jose Rijo Comeback Player of the Year award. Now, Nate, where do you want to start this conversation? Is there
if I had to,
jumps to mind, who are the nominees?
It's weird because I feel like we mostly have people that should have been contenders and didn't pan out. Like Tyler Stevenson would have been the perfect candidate for this, right? But if he's your answer, then nobody really came back. I think you could go with maybe a little Jonathan India if you wanted to reach. You could go with Jake Fraley because he was a bit beat up last year. We all wanted Joey Votto to run away with this one, but we can't claim that happened either. So I'm going to throw out an unconventional answer, and it's going to be somebody that did not come back from a previous stint with the Reds. It was somebody that was so atrocious at the major league level last year that they got traded in the offseason. I'm going with the man, the myth, your legend, Will Benson.
Oh, yes. Will Benson.
He didn't come back from injury, didn't come back from anything crazy, but he came back from just an atrocious stint in the major leagues to put up an incredibly productive year and to sort of position himself for a brighter future than I think, well, certainly anybody in the Guardians organization saw coming.
Well, I love that. You know what I think about Will Benson. I'm going to go a different area, and then we're going to decide who actually gets this here. And the reason I'm going to go differently is because I'm going with someone that was a Red last year.
Okay.
And coming back. And that's not really a rule in the Comeback Player of the Year award. I think probably Will Benson is the guy. But I'm going to have to say Ian Gibaut.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, Ian Gibaut last year had a 4.67 ERA with the Red Legs in 33 games. His ERA plus was 95. So that's, approximately 5% below average. This year, Ian Gibaut, I don't know. I feel like I get worried every time Ian Gibaut pitches, but he leads the majors in appearances. Did you know that Ian Gibaut leads the majors in appearances, Nate?
I don't know that I want to give him credit for that, but yeah, I'm aware.
No, it's not his. 73 appearances, 8-4 record, 3.24 ERA, an ERA plus of 143. He lost a letter on his uniform there when he was playing in the World Baseball Classic. I expected very little of Ian Gibaut, and he scared me most times he entered the game. But you look up at the end of the year, and pretty good performance for a guy that looks like John Belushi.
Oh my God. I think he's a perfectly good choice. I do want to shout out for honorable mention TJ Ant for coming back at all. That was pretty cool. And then Lucas Sims, because he sort of sputtered there at the end, but his first half, he was lights out. Both of those guys, we were worried if they were ever going to pitch again.
Antone, after 2 Tommy Johns, that actually might be the answer here, Nate.
Or we just name it after
because the TJ Antone Comeback Player of the Year. Well, who are we going to give it to? What do you think, Jabot or Benson? I'm going to let you make the call on this one.
I'm going to have to go with Will Benson just because I get
you.
excited as a Reds fan to see Will Benson play baseball. And that's not true for the other guy.
Exactly. Will Benson, and I've been sort of he's my new guy, but because he's likable, he's just a likable guy. But this guy was literally a first round pick who was dead in the water. His career was on the brink of being over. And matter of fact, there's an interview with him that you can find early in the year where he said literally he had the conversation about whether it was time to retire. And now he's a young, exciting contributor, like a key player on a really good
core piece of the future of this franchise.
Yeah, it's a great comeback. So the 2023 TJ Antone comeback, TJ Antone / Jose Rijo comeback player of the year, Will Benson. Congratulations, Will. Now, Nate, this next one is one that is going to be fun because there are, I think, a lot of names that you can name for this one. This is the come out of nowhere player of the year. It's the Chris Steins come out of nowhere player of the year. If you don't know who Chris Steins is, you better ask somebody. So the come out of nowhere player of the year. And here's why I think this is interesting, Nate. You can name about 5 of these rookies. Like, I'm going to tell you who my guy is for this. And my number one. There's a ton that you can name. But my number one guy for the come out of nowhere is Andrew Abbott. Andrew Abbott was in Double-A to start the year. Now, as you know, he's a UVA guy, as am I. The University of Virginia Cavaliers, 0-4 on the football field this year. He was in Double-A and a good prospect. You know, I mean, he was a legit prospect. It's not like he was not supposed to be somebody. But if you'd have told me he would be in the conversation for the most effective, and maybe not even just the conversation, but maybe he's the argument winner for the Reds' best pitcher of the season, I would not have believed it. So Andrew Abbott's my guy for the come out of nowhere player of the year. You got somebody else, Nate?
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic choice, but I'm going to go a slightly different direction because Andrew Abbott has that pedigree. I'm going to go with TJ. We have debated on this show time and time again about whether or not we think that this guy is a piece of the Reds' future, even the near future. And all he does is come out and all season long puts up a 118 OPS plus. I mean, the guy has every time we think he's done is he's reverting to his baseball card. He goes on another hot streak. He's almost single-handedly kept this team's playoff hopes alive. He has been a monster, bringing all the ruckus these last couple of weeks. And he got hot towards the second half of last year when he came back off the IL. And there was that Reds, rose-colored glasses look. If he figured something out, maybe he figured something out. Well, he did. And it turned him into an above-average defensive player, should have been an all-star, and at least probably a piece of this team for a few years, and likely your 2024 starting center fielder.
Okay. For the second straight time, I'm actually going to agree with you on this one.
It's dangerous.
TJ Friedel. Yeah, no. Here's a little inside baseball from the publishing world. In like week 3 of the season, TJ Friedel started hot, and I talked to my editor when we were talking about my weekly column at the mothership, and I said, you know what, I want to write about TJ Friedel this week because it's probably the only time I'll ever get to write about TJ Friedel. He's hot. He's going to cool off. See, the thing about this show is I try to be honest with you when I'm right, when I'm wrong, whatever. And I said, it's exciting. He seems like a fun guy, plays his butt off. I love some of the particulars of the game. I like that he steals. I like that he bunts for hits. I like the guy, but he's going to cool off, and that's going to be that. And he did cool off. I mean, he should have been an all-star, like you said. He did cool off, but now in the last week or two, this dude has been homers in 4 straight games. He's just been. I so love the stories of guys like TJ Friedel. You say no pedigree, literally no pedigree. The guy wasn't drafted. because every big league team forgot he was eligible to be drafted. I love that story. And the Reds got him because of that. And he's never been a superstar at any level, but he's worked his way up. He's been good. He's gotten better. And so I'm just I love baseball. I get a little gooey about baseball sometimes. And the reason why is because there are stories like TJ Friedel. It's I adore it. I adore his story. I adore everything about a guy who nobody gave a chance. And now he's a legitimate big leaguer. So TJ Friedel, Nate, you're 2-0 on this one. The come out of nowhere player of the year.
Congrats.
The defensive player of the year. We're going to call this the Brandon Phillips slide into your DMs defensive player of the year. I'll let you start with this one, Nate. Who's your candidate for the defensive player of the year for the Cincinnati Reds?
With all due respect to Tyler Stevenson, just kidding. With all due respect to, I thought about going outside the box and nominating Spencer Steer, not because he's been a great defender, but because he's been above average at like 11 different positions, which is particularly impressive because there's only 9. But I think I'm gonna have to go with our guy Matt McClain. The guy just plays an elite middle infield spot, whichever side of second base he's on. He's smooth. I don't even know if he made a single error. Don't look that up. Matt McClain's never made an error in his life. But that's my guy.
Okay, all right. That's that's completely reasonable. How about this? Who's the one guy? Who's the one player on the Cincinnati Reds, 2023 Cincinnati Reds, who has actually won a Gold Glove? I think there's only one player that's won a Gold Glove. Can you name him?
Joseph Daniel.
Did Joey win a Gold Glove? Gosh, I've just embarrassed myself. He did win one, didn't he?
Yeah.
All right. Who's the other player other than Joseph Daniel Votto to have won a Gold Glove? Gosh, you're right. I completely forgot Joey won one.
That's a good question. Who?
Harrison Bader.
Oh, get out of here. You are
legend of the Cincinnati Reds history, Harrison Bader. Not defensive player of the year. My guy's TJ Friedel.
Cancel this man. TJ Friedel would have been my next best pick.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go with Friedel. And here's why I'm going to go with Friedel. Harrison Bader. I'm going to go with Friedel because he's been good. And also because he got robbed of the All-Star game, so he needs to get a Reds Gold Glove. And because McClain, I just don't I don't know. I don't know if McClain's a shortstop. I don't know if he's a second baseman. I think he might actually be a Gold Glover at second base at some point. But I'm going to have to insist on TJ Friedel. He's played a pretty good center field.
Played a very good center field. There's no shame in that. And I might have to give you this one. Just if the tiebreakers games played.
Excellent. Thank you. I win one. Oh my goodness. What a time to be alive. TJ Friedel. TJ Friedel now with two consecutive superlatives here for the Reds, the defensive player of the year. Now the next one is a difficult one because there's so many candidates.
You
know what? Let's make it the last one. You want to? Let's hold that off because this is the best one. All right. Offensive MVP. Offensive MVP. Now there are a couple ways to look at this. If you look at strictly like, let's say OPS plus. Matt McClain, 128. The best OPS plus on the team. Will Benson, 124.
How about this? Will Benson has 16 more games played than Matt McClain and like 90 less at bats.
Wow. Yeah, it's because the kid gets on base.
Thanks, David Bell and your platoon bull crap.
Another way to look at it is wins above replacement. TJ Friedel leads in wins above replacement, but now there's some defense in there. 4.3 Fangraphs wins above replacement. Matt McClain's second in wins above replacement, 3.2. Here's what I'm going to go with, though, for the offensive most valuable player. And I don't know, maybe this is a stretch, maybe not, but I'm going to go with Spencer Steer. I mean,
I like it.
His OPS plus is 116, but the dude leads the Reds with 22 home runs, 85 ribeye stakes, 269, 355, 455 slash line. And he's in 154 games. The dude has been steady all season long. He's been dependable all season long. I'm going Spencer Steer.
Yeah, I think I would have probably nominated maybe Matt McClain just because he brought that spark with him. His arrival sort of coincided that uptick in the Reds' level of play. But I can't argue against Spencer Steer. 154 games. He played 70 more games, 65 more games than Matt McClain. He played almost 60 more than Ellie. He was just out there all season long. And it was a friendly reminder that sometimes these people over at Fangraphs know more than I do because they predicted it. They said he was going to be the team's best offensive player. And you and I were shooketh, couldn't believe it. Turns out they were right all along. Spencer Steer, so thankful that we have that guy locked up for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, I would like to go back and pull the clips of us talking about how Fangraphs predicted that. And it's like, I hope so, but a little skeptical. And has he been a superstar? No, but man, that guy's been dependable. He's been good. I love Spencer Steer.
I remember thinking if Spencer Steer is our offensive MVP, then this team is going to have a rough go of it. Turns out, the lesson, as always, I'm an idiot.
Love it. So we're going to go with Spencer Steer on this one?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So most valuable pitcher. Most valuable pitcher. Now here I'm going to go back with, I just talked about him for the reasons that I said earlier. I won't expand too much more, but I'm going to go with Andrew Abbott. I mean, I think Alexis Diaz, the Reds' only all-star, 2.94 ERA, struggled in the second half, but still, if you look at his numbers across the board, great season. I'm really excited about Alexis Diaz, but I'm going with Andrew Abbott. What do you think?
I think that is a fantastic pick and probably the correct answer. I would like to throw a few shouts. One to my guy, Graham Ashcraft, just because he pitched the most. And the thing that this team needed more than anything else was innings. So a little bit of shouts there. I want to give some shouts to Brandon Williamson, who probably deserves some love in the come out of nowhere player of the year conversation.
Oh, yes.
It turns out we didn't give him. So, but retroactively give him a couple votes. Still doesn't finish him first, but we see you. It does not go to Luke Weaver. We can all agree on that.
Okay.
So yeah, it's shout out to Ben Lively who did everything we could have asked him more, but it's got to be Andrew Abbott or Alexis Diaz, and I'm giving it to Abbott because if he doesn't come up and perform like an ace for 3 months, we're not having these good feelings of this late in the year. The team just isn't in contention anymore.
Yeah, absolutely, without question. And so, I think it's Andrew Abbott, 24 years old. The guy's got a crazy future. Brandon Williamson, again, I try to be honest on here. I was as wrong about Williamson early in the season. Don't go look up the archives about what I said about him. I didn't expect anything like this. Now a legitimate number 4 or 5 type starter in the big leagues, I think, going forward. The real answer here, and we're going to give it to Andrew Abbott, but the real answer here might be just collectively the bullpen.
Yeah,
because I mean, let's be honest. I know people are frustrated with some of these guys occasionally, but if you look at their numbers across the season, Alexis Diaz, Ian Gibaut, Buck Farmer, Lucas Sims, Alex Young, Fernando Cruz, Derek Law, Daniel Duarte, Sam Maul. Sam Maul has been good. Those guys have all been collectively about 1 billion times better than I expected because none of those guys had a great pedigree other than Alexis Diaz. So I don't want to. I think we've kind of undersold how important the bullpen performing way above what we expected has been to this team winning 81 games and perhaps more. And so I just want to, we're going to give this to Abbott, but
you know what?
Give a shout out.
I'm willing if you are. It is your show. So we
can
change the rules on the fly if we want to. This is the most valuable pitcher. And then parentheses S. The Reds bullpen gets it. The perfect example of something as a whole being better than its parts. Because you don't get excited about any of those guys except for Alexis Diaz. It turns out together, somehow they are, well, they were great this year.
This year. Let's not count on the next year, but I'm with you. We're going to get to the bullpen. Cincinnati Reds 2023 most valuable pitcher, the bullpen. Team most valuable player. The team most valuable player. And Nate, I'm going with TJ Friedel here. I'm going with TJ Friedel. TJ Friedel is the by Fangraphs wins above replacement.
Mm-hmm.
Led the team. By Baseball Reference wins above replacement. Led the team. I think there's some other guys you can argue. McLean, Abbott, Steer, obviously. But I think TJ, I can't believe I'm saying this. I think TJ Friedel was the most valuable player on the 2023 Cincinnati Reds. What do you think?
I'm not going to argue too much with you, but he finished as a runner-up for me to Spencer Steer.
Okay.
Once again, those games played, that carries a lot of weight with me. And also his willingness, nay, eagerness to play all the positions. He was like, bring up whoever you want. I will go play a brand new position because I understand the pedigree that they bring to the table. A lot of guys are going to, you're a professional athlete. You have an ego. You have pride. You think you are the best to ever play this game. Spencer Steer said, not worried about that. I'll do whatever it takes to help this team win, and that is how I define valuable, and he's my team MVP.
We mocked Pete Rose a little earlier, but that's one of the things about Pete Rose that was so valuable about him is that he was willing to play whatever position the Reds needed him to play. And I think it's a great point. You bring up Encarnacion Strand to play first base while you move Steer to left field. And he's like, okay.
Got it.
Tell me where to play. I'm going to go out there and hit home runs and knock in RBIs. I'm just Spencer Steer's one of my favorite players of recent years. I love everything about that guy, but I'm going to have to insist on TJ Friedel.
If you say so.
So, no, how about this? Co-MVPs.
All right.
Friedel and Steer.
I like it. Well deserved.
Co-MVPs. Yeah, both are well deserved. So the co-MVPs.
Get some both. They can use this in arbitration.
Right. I hope they do.
The Riverfront voted us some MVPs. I hope they show up for their arbitration like John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell and Step Brothers. Showed up for the job interview.
I love it. Yes, we'll show up with our tuxedos on.
Amazing.
Oh, my goodness. Wonderful. All right, last category here, Nate. Last category, Rookie of the Year. Team Rookie of the Year. And we left that for last because there's so many nominees, I guess. And I don't know, I think we've sort of, because, you have Ellie De La Cruz, you have Will Benson, you have Christian Encarnacion Strand, you have Andrew Abbott, you have Noelvi Marte. But I think we've kind of already discussed this. I think it kind of has to be Spencer Steer, doesn't it?
You can make it. You can sell me on Andrew Abbott.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. Maybe we should do the pitching rookie of the
pitcher
year, and then because I want to give my guy Fernando Cruz some love. I don't know if he counts as a rookie because he played a little bit last year, but he's barely played, and he's like 40 years old or something. But
so many rookies.
If we have to pick one, man, I would have been sure it was Ellie. Now that we're at the end of the season, CES is hot and playing so well. Noelvi Marte had a 12-game hitting streak. He just hasn't been up long enough to garner true consideration. Matt freaking McLean, whose arrival directly coincided with how hot this team got.
Actually, Matt McLean might be the answer here.
I love it. We haven't given him a spot yet. Matt McLean.
Oh, I'm with you. Let's give it to Matt McLean because the truth of the matter is, for a long time, Matt McLean was the best player on the team, and he was the guy, the steady influence. I wanted it to be Ellie just because I love Ellie. But yeah, Matt McClain.
Ellie's going to win plenty of awards.
He is.
And Spencer
Absolutely.
didn't even want this award. I actually got a text message from Spencer Steer while we were debating this. He's like, I heard you talking. I don't want that to be me. I'm not that kind of player. He's like, for the team, I want my guy Matt McClain to win this. See, gotta love Spencer Steer.
So humble. You gotta love Spencer Steer. All right. Well, we were gonna, try to run through this, and we have gone long, so we're gonna do rapid fire viewer mail. Rapid fire. These questions come from our friends at where are they from? Oh yeah, patreon.com/riverfrontcincy. Patreon.com/riverfrontcincy, where you too can support the Reds. And we're probably not going to get through all these questions. Sorry to those of you that asked questions that we're not going to get to, but we're going to do it. First question comes from James Urban. What are you guys more nervous about headed into the final weekend? Having to sweep the stupid Cardinals, who always ruin our fun, or having to root for our central rival Brewers and Pirates to help get us there? Regardless, with 3 games to go in the season, the Reds are still in the hunt. I don't think any of us expected that this year. Cheers, fellas.
Cheers.
I'm worried about, our friend Bill Lack texted us a couple of weeks ago and said, oh man, I can just see it happening. The Reds are going to get eliminated by the stupid Cardinals last weekend. So I guess that's my answer. Stupid Cardinals.
I don't hate the Pirates or Brewers anywhere near as much as I hate the Cardinals. So that's way worse to me. Also, shouts to James Urban. Very impressive that you're able to use the internet in your advanced age.
Yeah, it's really, really surprising. Let's see. Seth Shaner, quickly, should the he said some other things, but the quick question is, I can make many arguments for keeping Votto another year. Are these out of being a fan, or are they valid? Should they make every effort to bring back Joey, or is it time to give his at-bats to younger guys? I think you can argue both ways, frankly. I want to bring Joey back largely because I'm a fan, but I think you can make a legit argument for why they should bring him back, not just because of the sentimental aspects of it. Any thoughts there, Nate?
Bring him back to set the Reds franchise home run record. Bring him back.
I'm with him. I'm with you. Corey Ryan, a lot of turtle nonsense. Ask your question about movies next week because I have an answer that I don't love, but which would give us some discussion. Branch Brown asks, are we allowed to expect the Reds front office to try and win next season? Are we allowed to expect? That's the key word, expect the Reds front office to try. I mean, you're allowed to do whatever you want.
For me, the key word is allowed.
Yeah. For me, the key word is expect. I don't ever expect the Reds front office to try and win. And so, yeah, you're allowed to. You're welcome to. But I don't expect the Reds front office to try and win next season. I hope the Reds front office tries and win next season. But I'm beyond the point of ever expecting it.
Yeah, it's like playing roulette. You're going to bet it on red or black. Because if I have to bet on one or the other, it's not going to be the Reds front office doing the right thing as I believe to be.
Yeah. Rich Thompson, when the last out of the game for the Cardinals made on Sunday, which of these songs do you think might be played in the Reds locker room? Don't Stop Believing by Journey or Next Year by the Foo Fighters? So I guess the real question here is, are the Reds going to be moving on to the playoffs? Don't Stop Believing. Or are we going to have to wait for Next Year by the Foo Fighters? I'm going with Don't Stop Believing because I don't like the Foo Fighters.
Oh, it's a direction. I'm going with Don't Stop Believing too because we have a chance and we don't have many chances. We haven't. So I'm going to hold out for, I'm going to hold on for one more day. Well, Wilson
Phillips there.
That's right. You had a perfectly good opportunity there, Rich.
Exactly. All right, Mike Perry, who will have a more productive 2024 season, Noelvi Marte or Ellie De La Cruz? This is a great question, actually.
I love that we are going to be able to ask this question for a long time.
It's a glorious question. Noelvi Marte, man.
The dude's
that dude. I mean, that dude has been legit recently. So to me, the answer is Ellie. I'm going to always go with Ellie. But if you want to argue Noelvi as having a more productive 2024 season, I'm not gonna argue with you.
It's pretty crazy with all these rookies that we've talked about on this episode, all these talented ball players, that it could be Ellie and Noelvi Marte, like could legitimately battle for MVP several years into the future. Those guys have that kind of talent.
Let's go. I'm with you.
Love it.
All right, let's finish up here. Rex Scott, who Nate mentioned earlier. Chad and Nate, no questions from me this week, but I do want to offer you my profound thanks. This podcast and the ongoing dialogue on our Slack channel, that's patreon.com/riverfrontcincy, have caused me to get into Reds baseball more than any time in my life other than when I was a kid. The enhanced interest in a team I've always loved and the deep joy that comes with it has really been a treasured addition to my life. Very grateful to you guys for your leadership, kindness, and for bringing our Patreon family together. Let's go, he says. And then Joey Gaditza, our friend from Canada. I'd like to echo Rex. I love this family and this team more than ever now. Quick question. One favorite thing about this season? Lots to pick from, I know, but you can only pick one. Favorite thing about this season. So first of all, let me just say this, and then I'll kick it to you for your favorite thing about this season. Thanks, Rex. Thanks, Joey. Thanks for the entire Patreon family. Man, this has been a fun season, and not just the Patreon family, but all of our listeners and viewers. It's been a fun season to watch the Reds. Had a blast getting out to a Great American Ballpark again and seeing a bunch of you and talking to a bunch of you. It really has been a fun time. And yeah, we do have a really good time with our Patreon family. So Nate, one favorite thing about the season.
I'm going to keep it team related because my answer would just be the live show and going to the game and getting to meet everybody and hang out that way. But I'm going to say Joey's return and the crowd chanting his name. That whole game, he hits a home run. We were worried about how he was going to be received. I had goosebumps. Cincinnati showed up, showed out, and showed him the love that he so deserved. So for me, that was it. Slight or honorable mention to Will Benson just going nuts after that walk-off bomb against the Dodgers. Was freaking cool.
Will Benson's first home run. Yeah, that's up there. And of course Joey, that game, and then also the final home game with Joey were just amazing. For me, it's going to be Ellie De La Cruz the night he hit that hit for the cycle.
Yeah,
it was just it was the height of our sort of manic phase of the 2023 Red season, and it was during a time when you're seeing this guy who you've never seen anything like him, and it kind of crystallized why he was so special. So that was my second favorite. That was my second favorite. My favorite part of the 23 season is when the Reds clinched the World Series.
Whoo!
But that hasn't happened yet. But it's going to happen. All right, this is the Riverfront. Thank you to everyone for listening and supporting us here at the Riverfront. Tell your friends about us. If you like us, talk about us. If you don't like us, why are you still sticking around listening to us right now? Please remember to subscribe to the show either on YouTube or in your favorite podcast app. You can find us on Twitter or X or whatever it's called. We're on Instagram, Facebook at Riverfront Cincy, at Riverfront Cincy on all those platforms. And once again, a huge thank you to our supporters at patreon.com/Riverfront Cincy. This show would not be possible without the support of our Patreon family. So come join us. Nate, any final thoughts here?
Keep scoreboard watching. Keep rooting on our boys. We've got a little bit of hope. Let's go.
Let's go for shout out to Adam Dunn. Shouts to Elise Alberto and Wayne Krenchick and Eli Cash, for Nate Dotson, and once again and every week, Ron Vallone. This is Chad Dotson saying, so long, everyone.